Welcome to the online sensory parenting course. During the course of this presentation, we will look at what is sensory processing. We will learn about and explore our senses. We will look at what can go wrong and what do we see. And we'll also look at what you can do at home to help your child. Hopefully, by the end of this course, you'll feel empowered to use a sensory toolkit at home with your child. So, throughout the course, you will learn about common phrases or terms that will help you navigate your child through the world of sensory processing. It may feel like we're talking in a foreign language, but we will break everything down into easy to grasp terms. To help you, there is a handout in your pack with a list of all the common terminology used within the sensory processing world. We are all sensory beings. We all take in sensory information constantly. This is from within our body and from outside our body. The brain is responsible for acknowledging and organising all of the sensory information we take in to help us function in our everyday life. When our senses are integrated correctly, we're able to respond appropriately to the sensation. We only use about 5% of this information, and we ignore or filter out the other 95%. For example, right now, you may be able to hear a car outside, the clock ticking, or a TV on in the background. However, you are able to filter out this information in order to listen to me. We are all aware of the 5 senses that we have: touch, taste, smell, sound, and sight. But there are actually 3 more. These are proprioception, vestibular, and interoception, and these play a huge role in the sensory processing and are all closely related. We will talk about each of these senses in more detail in the coming slides. Sensory processing difficulties arise when we filter out more than 95% of the sensory information, or we let in more than 5% of the sensory information. This can affect our overall arousal level and our whole body's ability to change our level of alertness. It becomes a problem when it starts to interfere or impact on our ability to learn and do all the activities we do on a daily basis. Sensory processing difficulties is an umbrella term for lots of different types of sensory difficulties. Outlined here are just a few. Throughout this presentation, we will focus on the most common sensory processing difficulty, which is hyperreactive and hyporeactive. For more information about other sensory processing difficulties, please refer to the sensory pack that was sent to you. As it stands, sensory processing difficulties is not currently recognised as a standalone diagnosis, and it's only recognised as part of autism. This is why children's therapy services are only commissioned to provide sensory assessment and advice for children with a diagnosis of autism or children currently going through the assessment for autism. When we talk about hypo or hyperreactivity, we need to look at what our neurological set point is for sensory registration. Our neurological set point is that aha moment when we sense it. Children who have a high neurological threshold are children who under-respond to stimulation, need more stimulation, duration, frequency, intensity, for the sensation to register, and they may crave and seek more sensory stimulation to try to meet their high neurological threshold so the information is registered. This group of children have a sensory processing difficulty known as hyporeactivity. Children who have a low neurological threshold are children who over-respond to stimulation, an adrenal response to something that is non-noxious. They may feel too much, to the point where it can feel uncomfortable or painful, and they may avoid sensory stimulation. This group of children have a sensory processing difficulty known as hyperreactivity. Be aware that your child may be hypo or hyperreactive, or have a mixture within the same sensory system, as well as across different sensory systems. Your child's threshold may fluctuate depending on their mood, whether they've had a good day at school, a good night's sleep, and/or when they are feeling stressed. Please find in your sensory parenting pack the form called Your Child's Sensory Needs. As I go through each sensory system, think about and jot down on this form which senses your child has difficulties with and what strategies you think will be helpful. This will help you formulate a sensory plan. So, what is our tactile sensory system? Well, it's our sense of touch. It's our protective and nurture function. It helps us feel and discriminate between different types of touch. For example, is it rough, smooth, sharp? Does it require light touch or maybe a more firm and deep touch? Is it painful? And whether something is hot or cold. Together with our proprioception system, it contributes to our sense of body awareness. It's important to note that touch to body and face are taken to the brain in different nerve pathways. This may explain why a child may bump into a table and may not be aware, but when you try to wash them or wipe their face clean, all hell breaks loose. So, this slide highlights just a few of the common telltale signs that your child may be hyper or hyporeactive to tactile input. If they are hyperreactive, they may respond negatively to touch or the possibility of touch. They may dislike grooming, hairbrushing, haircuts and nail care. They may dislike certain textures of clothing. They may get annoyed with the labels. They may avoid group in situations or standing in line due to prevention from being touched. They may be a picky eater. They may have strong texture and temperature preferences. And those that are hyperreactive are often associated with a fight, flight or freeze response, emotional outbursts and aggressive behaviours. Those who are hyporeactive may be unaware of messy hands, face or runny nose. They may have a high pain threshold, and they may crave and seek touch. For example, they may be constantly touching objects or people. They may have difficulty holding and using tools, such as a pencil, using a knife and fork, and they may drop these items frequently. They may also be unaware of where their bruises come from, and they may be a messy dresser, unaware that their clothes are inside out or twisted on their body. So on this slide are some more tactile strategies. These are ones that you can try at home and use through trial and error and see which ones work best for your child. It's also worth noting that in your packs there is a handout named Tactile Activities for you to also try at home. So, for children that are hyperreactive, we would advise that you do not approach them from behind. Where possible, give lots of warning when, where and how long you are going to touch them for. Use firm, constant pressure, not light touch. Let them be in control of the touch and the hugs. Forewarn them before any activity that involves touch, and avoid sitting or standing in the middle of large groups. For those that are hyporeactive, a variety of touches, for example, massage, exploring objects with the hands, will be really beneficial. Contrasting tactile experiences within learning, for example, drawing letters on sandpaper or drawing them in shaving foam. Using any sort of toys with different textures, for example, using fidget spinners or using blue tack. Incorporating messy play into daily activities, sand or water play, and getting involved in art and craft activities. So what is our proprioceptive system? Well, it tells us where our body is in relationship to other things. There are small receptors which are located in every muscle, tendon, joint and ligament, and it provides us with body awareness, and it enables us to judge and grade the force we need to complete activities. For example, I may ask you to pick up a cardboard box. You don't know what's inside the box, so how much effort are you going to use to pick it up? Now, most of us will probably use more effort in case it is heavy. However, upon picking it up, we quickly realise the box is empty and we have used too much force. This is us using our proprioceptive sensory system. and it also plays an important role in our self-regulation. Yes, there is some good news. You cannot be hyperreactive to proprioception. There is no evidence to suggest that this even exists. Proprioception is known as the universal modulator. It can calm and alert a child regardless of what sensory system they are hypo or hyperreactive to. If you only have time for one activity a day for your sensory child, make it be one full of proprioceptive input. Use proprioceptive input when you observe your child beginning to get out of control or becoming overwhelmed. Here are some telltale signs that your child may be hyporeactive. So they may have poor body awareness. They may be clumsy or accident prone. They may constantly bump into things. They may spill things. They may have poor posture or slump at a table. They may tire easily and have poor endurance. And they may hold objects too loosely. Sometimes they may use too much force. They may break things, for example, holding a pencil too tightly. They may love rough and tumble play. They may not realise they are being too rough with their peers. And they may deliberately bump and crash into things or fall off them. And they may constantly bite or chew on stuff. Please refer to your sensory pack for proprioceptive strategies that you can try at home. Remember, to activate your proprioceptive system, you need to move and engage your muscles. Look at activities where you can increase proprioceptive input, frequency, intensity, and duration. And look at any activity where your muscles have to work against resistance. For example, push, pull, lift, and carry. This is commonly known as heavy muscle work. So, what is our vestibular system? Well, it's our internal spirit level that provides us our sense of movement. Again, there are tiny receptors which are located in our inner ears. It tells us where our heads are in space and which way is up. It helps us judge the speed and direction of our movement with help from our eyes. It helps us maintain our posture, and it helps us to relate the force of gravity so we can be grounded in time and space, and it helps coordinate both sides of our body. This is known as bilateral integration. So what are the telltale signs that your child is hyper or hyporeactive? Well, for those children that are hyperreactive, they may easily become sick or dizzy with movement. They may avoid moving their head from an upright position. They may resist certain position, for example, when washing their hair, when they have to tilt their head back. And they may not like having their feet off the ground or hanging upside down. They may have a fear of falling or heights, for example, going up steps or going down them. They may also avoid swings and other playground equipment. For those children that are hyporeactive and they're not getting enough input, they may have poor balance. They may appear clumsy. They may have reduced protective reactions to movement. They may frequently need to rock, bounce up and down, and constantly move and not sit still and always appear to be on the go. They may crave spinning, and they may love hanging upside down, and they may not appear to become dizzy. Ew, ew. Caution, caution. Ew, ew. Vestibular input is very powerful and can cause systemic reaction such as nausea, headache, and flushing of the skin. Rotary movement, for example, spinning, can cause a delayed sensory meltdown or overload, or your child may get more and more excitable and overstimulated. Watch closely and listen to your child for signs of sensory overload. For more vestibular activities to try at home, please look in the sensory pack. So, those children that are hyperreactive and hyporeactive, what can we do? Well, for those children that are hyperreactive, we can allow the child to control the movement. Do not force the child into movement situations or environments that are scary. Start with slow and rhythmical, predictable movement. For example, linear. Children may work better in different body orientation. For example, lying down. And incorporate a proprioceptive element. For example, swinging by pushing off a therapy ball with the feet. For those children that are hyporeactive, Incorporate movement breaks into routine before asking them to sit still. Allow them to lean against objects when required to balance or sit down. Provide activities requiring lots of different body positions, for example, an obstacle course. And also, any physical activity, for example, jumping, running, walking, skipping, or dancing, are all beneficial for a child that is hyporeactive to vestibular input. So what is the auditory sensory system? Well, what we know is that it provides information about sounds in the environment. For example, whether something's loud, soft, high, low, and it allows us to know where something's near or far. Receptors are located in our inner ears and is stimulated by air/sound waves. It also acts as a protective function. For example, the sound of the smoke alarm signals when we've left something burning on the hob. So here are the telltale signs for a child that may be hyperreactive to auditory input. You may find that they cover their ears a lot, have difficulty filtering out background noise, for example, a fan, wind, or noisy traffic. They may have negative reactions to everyday sounds, such as a hoover, hand dryer, or lawnmower. They may have difficulty coping in busy or echoing environments, so when they're having to line up for assembly, whilst in the swimming pool, bathroom, and in busy supermarkets. And they may create own noise to block out external noise. Also, similar to the previous senses that we've already looked at, they are often associated with fight, flight, and freeze responses, emotional outbursts, and aggressive behaviours. For those who are hyporeactive, children may seem unaware of some sounds. They may want volume loud on music and TV. They may not respond to instructions or names being called, have a slow response to novel environmental sounds, and they might make sounds, for example shouting, singing and banging objects, just so that they're able to hear noises, and they may need verbal instructions repeated. So here are some auditory strategies for those that are hyperreactive and hyporeactive. For those that are hyperreactive, reducing auditory stimuli will be beneficial. Maybe having a quiet space so that your child can retreat to. Where possible, forewarn your child of any loud or unexpected noises. Label the noise, where it's coming from, and if possible, tell your child when the noise will stop. Chewing. Chewing food, sugar-free gum, and oral chew toys can help block out sounds that your child may not like. Wearing earplugs, noise-cancelling headphones and ear defenders, or listen to music or an auditory book on the iPod or similar to block out that noise that is uncomfortable for them. For those children that are hyporeactive, give strong auditory cues. For example, clapping or ringing a bell. Position yourself in front of the child and get their attention, eye contact if possible, before giving instructions. Allow the child to make noise themselves if it is not impacting on others. Allow your child to process what is being said to them. And encourage children to use headphones if they want their TV or music loud. Please refer to the handout on auditory strategies to try at home. So, what is our visual sensory system? Well, our visual system provides information regarding objects, people, distance, and it allows us to know whether something's light and dark. It helps us determine our position in space, and it assists with us to identify things that may be harmful to us in our environment. For example, think about when you look at food. We can identify just by looking at food whether it has gone off by the colour or whether there's mould growing on it. So for those children that are hyperreactive to visual input, they may dislike bright lights, prefer darker rooms. When they're outside and it's bright, they may cover or shade their eyes. You may notice your child excessively blinking or their eyes watering when background light changes. You may notice that your child wants to wear peaked caps, keep their hoods up, or long hair over their face. And they may be easily distracted by visual input within their environment. For those children that are hyporeactive, you may notice them flicking their fingers in front of their eyes, They may enjoy staring at flashing lights and colours for prolonged periods of time. And they may often lose their place whilst reading. Here are some visual strategies for those that are hyperreactive and hyporeactive to visual input. For those children that are hyperreactive, avoid or turn off fluorescent or bright lights where possible. Allow them to wear a peaked cap, sunglasses or hood. Reduce visual distractions and declutter the environment. Allow time for them to retreat from bright environments. Avoid flickering and flashing lights. And forewarn them when you know an environment may be bright or busy. For those children that are hyporeactive, highlight an area for attention on paper or computer screen. Remove visual clutter from the home or workspace. Use bright colours. Provide clear boundaries or borders. And use activities with movement in them to keep stimulating the eyes. So for this next slide, we're going to be looking at both the oral, olfactory and gustatory. Our olfactory being our smell and the gustatory being our sense of taste. So oral, olfactory and gustatory are all closely related with the mouth. There are many receptors in and around the mouth area. It allows us to know whether food is sweet, salty, tart, sour, spicy, mild, hot, cold, smooth or crunchy. It helps us to determine whether food is safe. And it provides protection in the sense that it enables us to detect a smell that could be harmful. For example, gas. Our oral sense affects our level of alertedness and is used to regulate and organise as well as comfort. For example, giving a young baby a dummy or alerting a child by sucking on something sour. So for those children that are hyperreactive, they may be fussy eaters. They may have an aversion to certain food textures, temperatures and taste. They may use their teeth to remove food off utensils rather than their lips. They may be resistant to new foods, dislike or resist teeth cleaning, resist washing around the mouth and face area. And they may have a preference for bland or beige food, and they may use ketchup or something similar to mask the flavours. And they may gag at certain smells. For those children who are hyporeactive, they may frequently mouth objects. They may lick, chew and bite non-food items. You may find that they're a messy eater or a slow eater. They may stuff their mouth with food, and they may prefer strong flavours, make peculiar mouth movements, and they may have unclear speech. You also may notice that your child may be dribbling or have a chapped lower lip. So some of the behaviours I have just described may or may not be related to a sensory processing difficulty. There may be a medical reason, and it will therefore be important to rule out any sores or other dental health concerns with a dentist. Make the dentist aware of any sensory issues that may concern you. If your child chokes frequently on food, this needs to be reported to a doctor so that they're able to arrange for your child to be assessed by a speech and language therapist. Some parents may be worried about their child's diet. However, we know that children can still grow and be healthy and get enough nutrition from a self-restricted diet. However, if this continues to be of a concern, please visit your child's GP to discuss this further. So, strategies that you can do at home for those children that are hyper and hyporeactive are as follows. For those children that are hyperreactive, if you can apply deep pressure to and around the lips, allowing your child to chew on some chewy tube or gum. Forewarn your child of the need to touch their face or lips. Avoid strong perfumes, fabric conditioners or air fresheners. Use a few drops of your child's favourite smell in a tissue and use this to block out any aversive smells that they may dislike. Count to see how long it takes for the smell to fade to the point that the child doesn't notice it anymore. And slowly introduce new smells to the child. For those children that are hyporeactive, strong flavoured foods will be beneficial. Vibration, such as an electric toothbrush. Sucking, blowing, making noises and whistles. eating crunchy snacks, eating sour and fizzy foods, and giving your child an oral chewy toy. For further strategies, please look in the sensory pack, and in there will be a handout on oral activities that you can do at home with your child. So what is interoception? Well, it's known as the eighth sensory system. It's important to note that it is still a new sensory system that is still gaining an evidence base. It's our internal sense that allows us to feel our internal organs and skin, and it gives information regarding the internal state or condition of the body. For example, pain, body temperature, when we're hungry or thirsty, sleepiness, the need to go to the toilet, anxiety, when we're feeling unwell, and sexual arousal. Interoception allows us to feel all of our emotions, and interoception is important for self-regulation. So on the next slide, you're going to watch a video about what interoception is. So, what are the signs that your child may be hyper or hyporeactive to interoceptive input? Well, for those children that are hyperreactive, they may become too hot easily and quickly. They may struggle to wear clothes and have warm baths. They may feel pain and emotions very intensely. You may find that your child needs frequent toilet trips at the slightest urge to urinate, as it causes a feeling of discomfort or the need to go in an emergency. They may complain several times a week of aches, pains, and ailments at the slightest discomfort that can feel like a major health issue. For those children that are hyporeactive, you may find that they're always waiting until the last minute before racing to the toilet, as they do not register the urge until the feeling is very intense. You may find that they never seem to feel hungry or thirsty, and does not feel discomfort of hunger or thirst. Your child may keep running until they reach a point of extreme exhaustion, and your child may struggle to fall asleep, as they do not recognise the physical sensations of feeling tired. So, what are the strategies that we can do for those with interoception difficulties? Well, as yet, there's not been much research done to determine whether sensory strategies can improve interoception, and not all children will be able to use the above strategies. Further research is needed. However, in terms of education, you need to teach your child to learn to recognise their physical sensations and connect it to hunger. For example, the need to eat food, their bladder, of when they need to do a wee, as well as emotions. Role model and label your physical sensations and connect it to what it means to help your child learn. You can use visual cues, for example, using monitors like a Fitbit. So for bedwetting, they may need an alarm, for example, a Dry Me, or they may require a toileting schedule or timetable. Mindfulness is used to increase interoception awareness by doing a body scan. Teach your child to scan their bodies for any physical sensations and help them learn to interpret what they mean. Most of us learn how to interpret interoceptive signals without anyone needing to teach us. However, many children do not always learn these skills naturally, so they need to be taught about their interoceptive signals. This is especially important when they learn about emotions and managing emotions. Now, most emotions programs focus on teaching children to label and identify emotions through facial expressions, tone of voice, and situations or triggers. What they are not doing is teaching the children about the physical sensations they experience when they are feeling an emotion. It is hard to understand and manage your own emotions if you're not able to interpret or register the physical sensations associated with emotions. For example, anxiety, scared, anger, or excitement. We often see children go from calm to complete meltdown without any warning, and these children are often not aware or not able to interpret the physical sensations that let us know that we are starting to feel. The Interoception Curriculum, a step-by-step guide to developing mindful self-regulation, has 25 lessons to teach self-regulation skills, starting with noticing body signals. Currently, it's only available to be purchased online from the USA. It is recommended that you read the book Interoception, the Eighth Sensory System by Kerry Marler to understand the concepts in the interoception curriculum. Alternatively, parents can pay to do online training on interoception provided by Kelly Marler. Please look at her website. Some emerging small studies where 100 schools in Australia have implemented the interoception curriculum and have seen a 50% decrease in behavioural accidents across the schools. For more information on interoception, please check out the book highlighted below, Interoception, the Eighth Sensory System by Kerry Marler. You can also find free materials by following the below website. Or you can join the Facebook group, Interoception, the Eighth Sensory System. Please see below for our Facebook group, Sensory Parenting, Children's Therapy Services at Port Hospital. This is a safe space where parents can share their experiences, knowledge, and to ask any questions they may be struggling to find an answer to. Please also check out our Poole Child Development Centre website for further strategies on dressing, bathing, sleeping, eating, grooming, and toileting. So, as occupational therapists, we are often asked whether the child's behaviour is sensory related or if it's just behaviour. To understand why your child is displaying behaviour that challenges you, you need to find out what the function behind the behaviour is. In other words, what is driving your child to behave in the way they are? So broadly speaking, there are 4 main functions of behaviour: escape avoidance, attention seeking, tangible, and sensory. In reality, your child's behaviour is often a combination of many factors. For example, difficulties with expressing how they feel. They may be unwell. They may be trying to avoid something. They may want something they can't have. Or it may be due to their sensory processing difficulty. On the next slide, there is an observational log tool that you can use to help you identify the function of your child's behaviour. But where possible, you need to use strategies proactively to prevent your child's behaviour from happening in the first place. It is important to earn your child's trust and communicate to your child that you understand that life is hard for them and you are on their side. You are there to help your child figure things out and work through challenges. Try and avoid power struggles. It's not a good idea to force your child to do something when you know there is a sensory issue at play. Listen to what your child's behaviour is telling you. The approach is important. Confidence and trust must be built first. In your pack, there is a handout with further information on behaviour and strategies. Common strategies that we recommend may include giving your child a choice of 2 or 3 so that they feel in control. Use visuals with your child. For example, visual schedules can help provide your child a sense of feeling in control. Knowing what is coming and what to expect can help them cope better than not knowing. Give your child countdowns can be really helpful. Focus on telling your child what to do rather than what not to do, and give lots of attention and praises to the behaviour you want to see rather than the unwanted behaviours. When your child is experiencing a meltdown or a sensory overload, your child is not in control and they do not have the ability to listen and to follow any instructions you give them. Help your child to recover from a meltdown by reducing all verbal input. This means that as parents, we need to stop talking and just be there for the child. Where possible, remove your child from the situation. This is often easier than trying to control the environment and reduce or stop the sensory triggers, especially when out in the community. Your priority is to keep your child and everyone around them safe. Set up a calm down box or a bag filled with various items that have a calming effect on your child, which is only used for meltdowns. Think of things that can help block out unwanted sensory input, for example headphones, a body sock, etc. Also, think of calming activities that do not require any equipment or small equipment that can be fit into your pocket or handbag. Please find in your pack an ABC observation log and further guidelines on how to complete an ABC form. This is a useful tool to help unpick your child's behaviour to understand what the function is. It is easier to support your child to manage their behaviour if you know what the function is, as this allows you to find the most appropriate strategy. So please find in your sensory pack that was sent to you a range of sensory strategies for sensory activities, a sensory plan. Please go through your sensory plan and remember that this is a working document that should be updated as your child gets older. Please feel free to share this plan with close family members and teachers so that they are aware of your child's sensory needs and understand how best to support your child. Inside are also examples of visuals that can be used to support your child, for example social stories, schedules and now a next boards. And also you'll find observational logs to record behaviour. Please also find resources that may be of benefit to you within your packs. You will find a reading list, websites, online training courses that may be of benefit to you, parents' handout on the Trust website, sensory integration network support groups on Facebook, and sensory equipment suppliers. So, what's next? Well, this is where the hard work begins. You're going to put everything that we spoke about today into practice. Remember to observe and listen to your child's cues. Sensory strategies should be child-led and child-directed. If it does not work, try again another day. And don't forget to celebrate the small victories. For any questions you may have, please refer to our Sensory Parenting Children's Therapy Services at Poole Hospital Facebook page. We'll be more than happy to answer any questions you have there. Thank you for listening.